Scene opens with dramatic, fast-paced clips of various fictional monsters and disasters. Then cuts to an image of SCP-682. Have you ever wondered what the most dangerous thing in the universe could be? A black hole. A supernova. What if I told you the most terrifying entity isn't in the far reaches of space, but locked away right here on Earth, in a secret facility, by a clandestine organization? This is the story of SCP-682, a creature so infamous, so relentlessly hostile, that its file simply reads, Hard-to-Destroy Reptile. Welcome everyone. Today, we're rediving deep into the lore of one of the most iconic figures in the SCP-Foundation universe. What makes SCP-682 so legendary? It's not just its immense size or strength. It's its undying, seething hatred for all life and, most chillingly, its apparent inability to be permanently terminated. The Foundation has thrown everything it has at this thing, and it just keeps coming back. Let's pull up the official file. Item number, SCP-682. Object Class, Keter. Now, for those new to the Foundation, Keter is the highest standard classification for threats. It means the object is incredibly difficult to contain and poses a catastrophic risk to humanity should it ever break free. And 682 breaks free a lot. The special containment procedures are a testament to its danger. SCP-682 must be kept in a 5 by 5 by 5 meter chamber, with the interior surfaces completely lined with 25 centimeters of reinforced acid-resistant steel plating. The chamber itself is then submerged in a container filled with hydrochloric acid, which must be circulated and filtered constantly. Why all the acid? It's one of the few things that can incapacitate 682 long enough to keep it contained. Any attempts by SCP-682 to move, speak, or breach containment must be met with immediate and overwhelming force. As authorized by on-site security, personnel are forbidden from speaking to SCP-682 to prevent provoking a rage state. All unauthorized personnel attempting to communicate with it will be forcibly removed. That's right, even talking to it is considered a major security risk. So, what is this thing? The description in the file is both vague and terrifying. SCP-682 is a large, vaguely reptilian creature of unknown origin. It appears to be extremely intelligent and was observed engaging in complex communication with another SCP, SCP-079, during their brief encounter. It has expressed a deep-seated hatred for all forms of life, a sentiment it has vocalized on multiple occasions during interviews. Physically, its most notable feature is its incredible regenerative ability. SCP-682 can rapidly heal from any wound and adapt its body to counter whatever is trying to harm it. It's been seen growing new limbs, organs, and even adapting to resist specific types of energy or matter. If you shoot it, it develops armor. If you burn it, it becomes fireproof. If you try to dissolve it, it changes its chemical composition. This rapid adaptation is the core of why it's called the Hard-to-Destroy Reptile. The Foundation has recorded it regenerating from as little as 13% of its original body mass. So, where did this nightmare come from? The Discovery Report gives us our first glimpse. SCP-682 was first located by the Foundation after reports from farmers and redacted of a creature slaughtering their livestock and terrorizing the local population. When Mobile Task Force Epsilon 9, also known as Fire Eaters, arrived, they found something far worse than a simple predator. The initial capture was a brutal affair. The creature, which was already massive, fought back with a ferocity the agents had never seen before. Standard firearms were useless. Heavy weapons barely slowed it down. The report details a chaotic battle where the creature's body was constantly shifting and changing, healing from catastrophic damage in mere moments. It said that several containment specialists were lost during this first encounter. They eventually managed to subdue it, but the experience served as a grim warning. This was not just an animal. It was a force of nature driven by pure malice. Once they got it back to a secure site, the real challenge began. Containment. The Foundation's initial attempts were, to put it mildly, a catastrophic failure. They started with a standard high-security cell. SCP-682 breached it within hours, simply by ramming its body against the walls until they gave way. The resulting containment breach was costly, leading to numerous casualties, before it was resecured. They tried reinforcing the walls. It adapted, developing bone spurs and claws that could tear through the reinforced steel. They tried electrifying the cell. It altered its skin to become a non-conductor. They tried filling the cell with nerve gas. It adapted its respiratory system to filter it, seemingly holding its breath for an impossibly long time before its biology shifted. Each containment failure was more destructive than the last. Each attempt to control it only seemed to make it stronger and more furious. During these early breaches, it would often speak, its voice recorded as a low, rumbling growl. It would call the Foundation staff disgusting and express its desire to see them all wiped from existence. The psychological toll on the personnel assigned to it was immense. How do you guard something that sees your very existence as an offense? It became clear very quickly that standard containment was never going to work. The creature was too smart, too adaptable, and too motivated to escape. This is when the Foundation scientists proposed a new, radical idea. If they couldn't contain it in a box, maybe they could keep it perpetually incapacitated. This led to the development of the acid bath containment we know today. The hydrochloric acid constantly damages SCP-682, forcing it to focus all its energy on regeneration rather than escape. It's a brutal, never-ending stalemate. The Foundation isn't truly containing it. They're just keeping it busy. But this solution is far from perfect. The acid needs to be replaced. The chamber needs maintenance. And every time there's a slight fluctuation in procedure, SCP-682 finds an opening. The number of containment breaches, while reduced, is still alarmingly high. There are 17 documented breaches on file, and those are just the ones they've declared. Each one results in significant loss of life and resources. This constant threat and the sheer expense of its containment led to a standing order. From the O5 Council, the highest authority in the Foundation, O5 Command has ordered that SCP-682 is to be terminated as soon as possible. This seems like a simple solution, right? Just get rid of it. But that's where the story of SCP-682 truly begins. The Foundation has tried to terminate it over and over and over again, using some of the most powerful and bizarre anomalies at their disposal. And every single time, they have failed. The termination logs of SCP-682 are the stuff of legend. They've pitted it against everything from reality benders to other unkillable monsters. They even tried using SCP-173, the sculpture that moves when you're not looking at it. But we'll have to save the tale of those insane experiments for another time. The history of SCP-682's containment is a grim saga of failure, adaptation, and sheer, unrelenting will. It's a constant, expensive, and deadly reminder that some things in the universe were simply not meant to be contained. It sits, in its bath of acid, regenerating, adapting, and hating, waiting for its next chance to escape and attempt to finish the one thing it desires. The end of all life. What do you think? Is there any way to truly destroy SCP-682? Let me know your theories down in the comments. This creature is one of the pillars of the SCP-Universe for a reason, and its story is far from over. Have you ever wondered what makes something truly uncontainable, not just hard to catch, but fundamentally resistant to being held? Today, we're diving deep into the mystery of an entity that defies our very understanding of containment. It's a story of regeneration, adaptation, and a relentless will to be free. So, why is this thing so incredibly difficult to keep locked down? It's not about brute strength or super speed. The real problem is its astonishing regenerative ability. You can damage it. You can tear it apart, but it always comes back. Think of it like a liquid metal robot from the movies, but organic. Any part that gets separated can grow back into a full, new organism. This isn't just healing. It's complete, biological reconstruction from the smallest piece. You can't destroy it in the conventional sense, because destruction only leads to multiplication. Imagine trying to put out a fire by throwing more fuel on it. That's the kind of impossible situation we're talking about. This regenerative power is just the beginning. The truly terrifying part is its adaptive nature. It learns. Every time a containment procedure is used against it, it adapts to overcome that specific method. Did you try to freeze it? Next time, it develops a biological antifreeze. Did you use high-intensity acid? It will evolve a corrosive-resistant outer layer. It's like a living, breathing chess grandmaster. that's always 3 moves ahead. The entity doesn't just react, it anticipates. It analyzes its environment and its restraints, then systematically alters its own biology to render them useless. This constant evolution makes any long-term containment strategy a race against an opponent that never stops getting stronger and smarter. You're not just trying to hold it, you're trying to outthink a being that can rewrite its own rules on the fly. Of course, nothing is perfect, right? Researchers have found a few weaknesses, but here's the catch. They are always temporary. For instance, initial tests showed that it was vulnerable to extremely high-frequency sonic waves. The vibrations seemed to disrupt its cellular structure, preventing it from regenerating. For a short while, this seemed like the answer. Containment cells were fitted with powerful sonic emitters, and for a glorious few weeks, it worked. The entity was docile, contained, but then it adapted. It started developing internal dampening structures, like natural soundproofing, that absorbed the sonic frequencies. The weakness was gone. Another temporary solution involved the complex cocktail of neurotoxins that paralyzed it. Again, this worked for a time, but eventually, its biology metabolized the toxins, rendering them inert and even using them as a source of nourishment. Every Achilles heel we find is just a temporary setback for it, a puzzle to be solved. And once it solves it, that weakness is off the table forever. This cycle of discovery and adaptation is what makes containing it a nightmare. To understand this process better, let's peek behind the curtain at some of the Foundation's lab experiments. These aren't your high school chemistry projects. These are desperate attempts to understand the limits of this entity. In one experiment, a small tissue sample was placed in a vacuum chamber. The goal was to see if it could survive without an atmosphere. Not only did it survive, but it began to develop a way to sustain itself without oxygen, almost like it was learning to perform its own form of internal photosynthesis without light. In another test, they exposed it to immense gravitational forces, hoping to crush it. Instead, its cellular density increased exponentially, becoming tougher than any known material on Earth. The most chilling experiment involved trying to communicate with it. Researchers sent simple mathematical patterns using light pulses. The entity responded, not just by mimicking the patterns, but by correcting a flaw in their sequence, demonstrating a level of intelligence that was previously unimaginable. These experiments prove one thing. Every attempt to control or understand it only seems to make it more formidable. It's not just an animal trying to escape. It's an intelligence, actively working against its captors. So, we're left with a being that can regenerate from any injury, adapt to any threat, and learns from every interaction. Standard containment is impossible. So, what's the solution? The current strategy is a difficult one. It's about managing the inevitable. Instead of a permanent prison, containment has become a dynamic process of constant change. Procedures have to be rotated and altered daily, sometimes hourly, just to stay one step ahead. It's a relentless, resource-intensive effort. They use a combination of psychological deterrence, misdirection, and constantly shifting physical barriers. The idea is to keep it so busy adapting to minor, ever-changing stimuli that it doesn't have the chance to focus on a major breach. Think of it like juggling. You can't just hold the balls. You have to keep them in constant motion. But for how long can you keep juggling when your arms are getting tired, and the object you're rejuggling is actively trying to make you drop it? The ethical and logistical implications are staggering. It's a perpetual state of crisis management. This entity challenges our very definition of life and intelligence. It forces us to confront the idea that some things may not be meant to be controlled. Its existence raises profound questions. What is its origin? What is its ultimate purpose? Is it a natural phenomenon, or something else entirely? We don't have the answers yet, but the ongoing struggle to contain it teaches us a valuable lesson about the limits of our own power and the incredible, sometimes frightening, adaptability of life itself. The story is far from over, and the challenge it represents is one of the greatest we've ever faced. We all know this creature is infamous for its ability to survive just about anything thrown at it. But have you ever wondered just how far the Foundation has gone to try and get rid of it for good? Today, we're unsealing the termination logs. Let's start with a classic matchup. SCP-682 versus SCP-173. The sculpture. The plan was simple. Put them in a room together. 173 is incredibly fast and lethal when you're not looking at it. The initial encounter was promising. 173 managed to snap off limbs and tear chunks from 682's body. For a moment, it seemed like this might actually work. But 682 is nothing if not adaptable. It began to grow multiple sets of eyes all over its body, allowing it to maintain a constant line of sight on 173 from every conceivable angle. With its primary attack nullified, 173 just stood there, unable to move out. The test was a failure. SCP-682 simply regenerated its wounds, now with a brand new, terrifyingly practical set of eyes. Next up, a truly terrifying contender. SCP-096, the Shy Guy. The Foundation's logic was brutal but sound. If seeing 096's face triggers an unstoppable, homicidal rage, what happens when the most regenerative creature on Earth sees it? They exposed 682 to a picture of 096's face. As expected, 096 entered its rage state and breached containment, heading straight for 682. The battle that followed was the stuff of nightmares. For over 27 hours, the two SCPs tore each other apart. Reports describe unimaginable levels of destruction. 96 shredded 682, ripping it to pieces. But 682 kept regenerating and fighting back. Eventually, 096, seemingly exhausted and unable to permanently destroy its target, just sat down. It became docile. The unstoppable force had met the immovable object, and the result was a stalemate, another failure, and a costly one at that. Okay, so brute force isn't working. What about something more subtle? Enter SCP-053, the young girl. This seemingly innocent child causes anyone who stays near her for more than 10 minutes to become irrationally paranoid and violent, eventually trying to kill her. When they attack, they suffer a fatal heart attack. The Foundation hoped 682 would attack 053 and simply drop dead. They placed 053 in 682's containment chamber, and the unthinkable happened. SCP-682, the creature that hates all life, became calm. It lowered its head, allowing the little girl to pat its snout and even draw on its hide with crayons. It showed no signs of aggression whatsoever. The researchers watching were baffled. The rage-inducing effects of 053 had no impact. For the first time, 682 seemed docile, almost content. The test was aborted, leaving the Foundation with more questions than answers. Let's try a different approach. Instead of destruction, what about pure, overwhelming positivity? This brings us to SCP-999, the Tickle Monster. This friendly blob of orange goo is known to induce intense euphoria in anyone it touches. The idea was to see if 999 could cure 682 of its homicidal rage. When 999 was introduced into the chamber, it immediately slid towards 682. At first, 682 was hostile, but 999 enveloped it in a massive, giggling hug. And then, for the first and only time on record, SCP-682 began to laugh. It laughed and laughed, rolling around in a state of pure bliss. It seemed like a miracle, but the euphoria was so intense that 682's body released a massive wave of energy, a pulse of pure, weaponized happiness that sent 999 flying and temporarily stunned the observation staff. When the dust settled, 682 was back to its usual grumpy self, stating that the experience was disgusting. Even happiness couldn't break it. The Foundation has tried everything you can imagine. They've used high-powered lasers, which 682 simply adapted to, reflecting the beams back. They subjected it to extreme temperatures, both hot and cold. It just adapted. They tried to erase it from existence with SCP-3930, a region of static non- When they pulled the D-Class bait back out, 682 was somehow still latched on, having survived being, for all intents and purposes, unlived. It seems that SCP-682's core concept is adaptation. It doesn't just resist destruction, it learns from it and incorporates it. Hitting it with energy makes it learn to control energy. Trying to erase it teaches it how to exist beyond existence. Each failure makes it stronger, more dangerous, and even harder to destroy the next time. This has led to a major debate within the Foundation. One faction argues that they must continue trying to terminate 682. It's too dangerous to exist. The resources required to contain it are immense, and the risk of a catastrophic breach is always present. They believe that somewhere out there is an SCP or a method that can finally do the job, and they have a duty to find it. They point to the sheer malevolence of the creature, its stated desire to wipe out all life, as justification for any and all attempts. To them, containment is just delaying the inevitable, and eradication is the only responsible choice. On the other side of the debate, another faction argues that these termination attempts are reckless and counterproductive. They point to the evidence. Every single attempt has not only failed, but has often made SCP-682 even more powerful. What happens when they try something that gives it the ability to teleport, or to become intangible? They argue that they are essentially training their greatest enemy, teaching it new ways to kill them. This group believes the safest course of action is to focus solely on containment, keep it locked in its acid bath, repair the breaches when they happen, and stop poking the giant, angry lizard with reality-bending sticks. They fear that one more failed attempt could be the one that leads to an Keter-class end of the world scenario. So, where does that leave us? SCP-682 remains in its cell, dissolving in acid, regenerating, and hating everything. The termination attempts are officially on hold, but the debate rages on. Is SCP-682 truly Is its existence a fundamental law of its own twisted biology? Or is the Foundation just not thinking outside the box enough? Perhaps its nature isn't to be killed, but to adapt. Its purpose might be to be the ultimate survivor. A constant, grim reminder that some things in the universe just can't be put down. The logs are filled with failures, but each one tells a story of terrifying resilience. What do you think? Is there an SCP that could finally do the trick? Let me know your theories in the comments below. Mysterious, slightly tense, intro music begins and then fades to a low background hum. Have you ever wondered what happens when the monsters break free? When the anomalies contained for our protection escape their cells and spill out into the world? The SCP-Foundation works tirelessly in the shadows to secure, contain, and protect. But sometimes they fail. Today, we're diving deep into the history of the Foundation's most catastrophic containment breaches, chronicling the events that nearly brought our world to its knees. Our timeline begins with the now infamous Site-19 Cascade event. It started subtly, a minor breach of SCP-173. The sculpture, a simple lapse, a blink of the wrong moment. But this single event triggered a domino effect. The ensuing chaos led to the release of SCP-096, the Shy Guy. Its rampage through the facility was unprecedented. Security feeds showed only blurs of motion and the aftermath. This single breach event resulted in the loss of 3 mobile task force units and nearly a quarter of the Site-S research staff. The official cover story. A localized seismic event. The reality was far more terrifying. From there, we jump to the global stage with the breach of SCP-610, the flesh that hates. Originating from a remote research outpost in Siberia, this highly infectious anomaly began to spread. The initial containment perimeter was overrun within 72 hours. Declassified reports detail the horror faced by Task Force village idiots, as they encountered entire villages transformed into pulsating masses of flesh. The Foundation was forced to enact Protocol Chimera, using thermobaric weapons to cauterize the region, halting the spread at a terrible cost. The global impact was contained, but it served as a chilling reminder of how close we are to a biological apocalypse. But not all breaches are about brute force. Consider the Quiet Night incident, involving SCP-966, the sleep killer entities. A power grid failure at site allowed several of these creatures to phase through their containment walls. They didn't cause explosions, they caused paranoia. Staff members began suffering from extreme sleep deprivation, hallucinations, and fatal cardiac arrests. MTF-8-9 mole rats was dispatched. Their after-action reports are the stuff of nightmares. They describe hunting invisible predators in darkened corridors, relying solely on thermal imaging and the chilling sound of their own heartbeats, knowing that to fall asleep meant death. One operative's log reads, "You don't see them. You just feel the exhaustion, the gnawing terror that something is watching you, waiting for your eyes to close for the last time." TC events. These sacrifices are cataloged in the Foundation's archives, not just as failures, but as lessons. Each breach, from the Keter-class rampages to the subtle whispers of a mimetic hazard, is a story of heroism and horror. Let's look at the broken masquerade near. This wasn't a single SCP, but a coordinated cyber attack that nearly released the Foundation's entire database to the public. Imagine the global panic if the existence of SCP-049 or SCP-106 became common knowledge. The world's normalcy would shatter. Task Force Gamma 13. Asimov's Lowbringers worked for 96 consecutive hours against the anomalous, a digital ghost in the machine, to prevent the veil from being lifted. They succeeded, but just barely. Now, let's explore this through the lens of official Foundation documentation style. Item SCP, the Echoing Man. Object Class Euclid. Special Containment Procedures. The entity is to be contained in a standard humanoid cell, with all personnel interacting with it to undergo weekly psychological evaluation. Description: SCP is a humanoid entity that appears to be a former Foundation Dr. Aristorne. Lost during the Site-13 breach. The entity constantly vocalizes fragmented logs and final moments of personnel from various historical breaches. It's a living archive of tragedy. Addendum 1. During an interview, SCP began reciting the last words of Agent Bell from the SCP-610 incident. Beautiful. The unity. The flesh is one. At this point, the interviewing researcher requested immediate amnestic administration. The entity seems to experience the final moments of those lost, a perpetual echo of the Foundation's greatest failures. It serves as a constant, living reminder of the price of their mission. These are not just stories. They are the hidden history of our world, a chronicle of the thin line between order and chaos, protected by an organization that must never be known. The casualties are more than numbers. They are researchers, agents, and soldiers who stood against the darkness so we could live in the light, blissfully unaware. Each containment failure is a scar on the face of the Foundation, a grim testament to the fact that the locks on the cages can, and do, break. From the psychic resonance of a forgotten god to the simple, brutal kinetics of a statue that moves when you're not looking, the spectrum of threats is endless. The Foundation's doctrine is relentless: secure, contain, protect. But in the silent aftermath of a breach, as they count the costs and rebuild the walls, they add another name to the memorial, another lesson learned in blood, and prepare for the next time the darkness escapes. Ever wondered where the most infamous lizard in the SCP-Universe, SCP-682, the Hard-to-Destroy Reptile, actually came from? The Foundation has tried everything to terminate it, but it just keeps coming back, stronger and more horrifying than ever. Its file is a long, grim record of failed attempts and terrifying adaptations. But the biggest mystery remains. What is this thing, and where did it originate? Today, we're diving deep into the lore, exploring the official theories, the fan-favorite headcanons, and the cryptic clues hidden within the SCP Wiki, to try and piece together the origin of SCP-682. Let's start with what the Foundation Asterisk thinks. Asterisk, they know. The official file, SCP-682, is surprisingly vague on its origins. It simply states the creature was captured and contained, with no details about where it was found or what its discovery entailed. This lack of information is intentional, both by the Universe Foundation to control data, and by the original author to create a sense of mystery. The Foundation's primary focus isn't on its history, but on its containment and neutralization. However, this information vacuum has become a breeding ground for countless theories, both within the Foundation's fictional ranks and among us, the readers. One of the most prominent in Newiverse theories is that SCP-682 is not from our planet, or even our dimension, is an alien, a biological weapon from a long-dead civilization, sent to sterilize planets. This would explain its extreme hostility towards all life and its incredible adaptability, which seems designed to overcome any possible threat. Imagine a species so advanced they created a living engine of destruction, A creature that could survive anything and destroy everything. Perhaps it was a success, and its creators are long gone, leaving their ultimate weapon to drift through space until it crashed on Earth. Then there's the interdimensional angle. The SCP multiverse is vast and full of horrors. Could 680 to be a refugee or an invader from a reality far more brutal than our own? A place where survival of the fittest is taken to its absolute extreme. This theory gains traction when you consider its bizarre, reality-bending adaptations. It doesn't just grow thicker scales, it can phase out of reality, manipulate its size, and even develop conceptual defenses. These aren't just biological tricks. They're manipulations of the fundamental laws of physics. Perhaps it's a native of a dimension where such things are commonplace, making it an apex predator in a cosmic jungle we can't even comprehend. But what if the answer isn't in the stars, but in our own myths and legends? Many fans believe SCP-682 has a mythological or even divine origin. This is where we get into some of the most popular and compelling tailies on the entire SCP Wiki. One of the biggest connections is to the Scarlet King, one of the most powerful and malevolent entities in the SCP-Lore. The tale Dust and Blood explicitly states that SCP-682 is one of the Scarlet King's children. Born from one of the 7 brides, in this telling, the Leviathan, as 682 is called, devoured his 6 siblings and was cursed by his father to be hated by all life. This theory explains so much. It explains 682's undying hatred for everything, because everything is compelled to hate it first. It's a curse. It also explains its immortality. As the offspring of a primordial deity of destruction, its existence might be tied to a fundamental concept, making it impossible to truly destroy without unraveling a piece of reality itself. This isn't just a tough lizard. It's a demigod throwing a cosmic tantrum, trapped in a cycle of mutual hatred with all of existence. Its deepest desire might not even be destruction, but simply an end to its own cursed life. An end that the Foundation, ironically, is incapable of giving it. Another major theory links SCP-682 to the biblical serpent from the Garden of Eden. This idea comes from the Tenu Jaba and is heavily implied in other stories. In this interpretation, the serpent who tempted Eve wasn't just a snake. It was a powerful, primordial entity. As punishment for its role in humanity's fall from grace, it was cursed by God. This curse made it so that it could no longer die, but would be hated and hunted by the children of evil, of humanity for eternity. Its form was twisted into the monstrous reptile we know today, forever trapped in a cage of flesh and bone, unable to find the sweet release of death. Think about it. The Foundation, a human organization, is obsessively trying to kill it. This perfectly fits the curse. We are compelled to try and destroy it, and it is compelled to survive, hating us for our efforts. This theory elevates the conflict from a simple monster hunt to a struggle of biblical proportions. SCP-682 isn't just an animal. It's a fallen being, a key player in the origin story of humanity itself, now paying a terrible price. Its containment isn't just about protecting humanity, it's about managing a divine punishment. This also explains its strange interactions with SCP-073, Cain, and SCP-076 Abel, who seem to recognize it. So, we have the alien weapon, the interdimensional horror, the cursed son of the Scarlet King, and the punished serpent of Eden. Which one is true? Well, in the world of SCP, the answer is complicated. There is no single canon. The beauty of the SCP Wiki is its collaborative nature, where multiple authors contribute their own interpretations. All of these origin stories can coexist as different possibilities in a vast multiverse. One universe might have the Scarlet King's Leviathan, while another contains the serpent. The Foundation itself might not even know, logging each contradictory piece of data and classifying them all. This ambiguity is what makes SCP-682 so compelling. It's not just a monster. It's a plot device, a symbol. It represents the unknown, the indestructible, the thing that science and reason cannot defeat. Its origin is kept deliberately obscure because giving it a definitive backstory would rob it of its power. It's the ultimate what if, a question mark made of teeth and claws. Is it a tragic figure? A cursed demigod longing for death? Or is it a mindless engine of destruction from a distant star? The terror and the fascination lie in the fact that we will likely never know for sure. The Hard-to-Destroy Reptile's greatest defense isn't its regenerative ability. It's the mystery that surrounds it. What do you think? Which origin story for SCP-682 is your favorite? Do you believe it's the serpent, a child of the Scarlet King, or something else entirely? Warning. The following briefing contains Level 4 classified information. Unauthorized access is punishable by termination. All personnel, please prepare your credentials. Slight pause. Sound of a keyboard clacking. Access granted. Welcome, O5 Council. This is an after-action briefing concerning the containment breach of SCP-7319. Designation the Echo Weaver. At Site 42 on October 20. I am Dr. Aries Thorne, head researcher on the 7319 project. I was present during the entire incident. At 0400 hours, Standard System Diagnostics reported an anomalous energy spike originating from SCP-7319's containment chamber. The object, a seemingly inert loom of indeterminate metal, had never shown activity before. We classified it as safe. That was our first mistake. The energy signature was strange, not radioactive, not electrical, but something akin to a massive psychic broadcast. It overloaded our Scranton reality anchors in under 3 minutes. Slightly faster, more urgent tone by 0405. The alarms were blaring, but they weren't our standard breach alarms. The sounds were distorted, twisted into something that felt like nostalgia. The klaxon sounded like a lullaby my mother used to sing. The automated voice warnings became the voice of my first mentor at the Foundation, congratulating me on a job well done. We were all trapped, not by locked doors, but by our own memories. I saw junior researcher Miller stop dead in the hallway, a huge smile on his face, talking to thin air. He was reliving his wedding day. Security Chief Heston, a man who hadn't shown an emotion in 20 years, was weeping silently in a corner, clutching a phantom photograph. The Echo Weaver wasn't just projecting memories. It was making us live inside them. It was weaponized nostalgia, a cognitive anesthesia. I managed to maintain some semblance of focus, I think, because of my training in mimetic resistance. But it was like wading through syrup. Every step was a fight against a memory of a warm summer day, a feeling of accomplishment. The first time I held my daughter, the object was weaving these echoes into reality itself, making them tangible, irresistible. Mobile Task Force Epsilon 11, Nine-Tailed Fox, was deployed at 0420. Their coms were a nightmare. We could hear them trying to coordinate, but their words were interspersed with fragments of old radio shows, sports commentary from decades past, and battlefield chatter from wars long over. They were fighting through a storm of collective memory. I made it to the observation deck, overlooking the chamber. The loom, SCP-7319, was glowing with a soft, golden light. Threads of pure energy, shimmering like spider silk, were snaking out from it, connecting to the minds of everyone in the facility. It wasn't hostile. It felt hungry. It was feeding on our experiences, our joy, our sorrow. It was harvesting our pasts. Through the chaos, I saw Commander Eva Rosales of Epsilon 11. She wasn't succumbing. Her face was a mask of pure, cold concentration, while her squad was trapped in their own heads. She was advancing, step by a painful step, towards the primary breaker for the site's auxiliary power. She knew, somehow, that the anchors were down and the only way to stop this was to cut the power feeding the Chamber-S environmental controls, which we now believe were unintentionally amplifying the object's effect. The entity seemed to notice her. The psychic pressure intensified. I saw her falter, her hand going to her head. I could almost feel what it was showing. Her a life she could have had, a family, peace, a life without the Foundation. It offered her everything she'd given up to protect the world, and she refused. With a final guttural scream that cut through the cacophony of memories, she slammed her fist down on the emergency power cutoff. For a single, terrifying second, everything went silent. The lullabies, the voices, the laughter all gone. Then, the backup generators kicked in, and a harsh, familiar red of the emergency lights filled the corridors. The threads of light snapped back to the loom as if they'd been burned. The glow faded. SCP-7319 was inert again. The aftermath was difficult. We lost 12 personnel, not to physical harm, but to catatonic withdrawal. Their minds are still trapped in whatever echo the Weaver showed them. Commander Rosellis is in psych evaluation, but is expected to make a full recovery. Her report states, simply, the past is a cage. We have the key. Our initial assessment was catastrophically wrong. SCP-7319 is not safe. It is a psychic predator of the highest order. It doesn't break walls. It breaks minds by offering a paradise we've already lost. We are reclassifying it as Keter and implementing new containment protocols, involving zero-energy stasis fields and a permanent memetic counteragent broadcast throughout the wing. We can't let it weave its tapestry again. The cost is too high. This concludes my report. Dr. Thorne, signing off. But among them all, one number sends a shiver down the spine of even the most seasoned researcher. 682. Today, we delve into the story of SCP-682, the Hard-to-Destroy Reptile, and explore why it's considered one of the most dangerous entities the Foundation has ever contained. So, what exactly is SCP-682? Described as a large, vaguely reptilian creature of unknown origin. Its most terrifying characteristic isn't its size or strength, but its astonishing ability to adapt and regenerate from almost any form of damage. You can burn it, freeze it, crush it, or even try to erase it from existence. Jess comes back, often stronger and more enraged than before. Its official file is essentially a long, horrifying log of failed termination attempts, each one more extreme than the last. The Foundation has thrown everything. It has its 682, from hypoweird lasers to other SCPs, and nothing has permanently worked. This relentless survivability is precisely what earns it the Keter classification. Now, for those new to the Foundation, Keter doesn't just mean dangerous. It means the object is incredibly difficult and costly to contain, posing a constant, active threat to normalcy and human life. SCP-682 isn't just locked in a box. It requires a custom-built chamber filled with hydrochloric acid to keep its regenerative abilities suppressed. Even then, it breaches containment constantly, resulting in catastrophic losses of personnel and resources. Its containment procedures are a testament to its sheer threat level. The Foundation isn't just trying to keep it in. They're in a perpetual battle to keep it from ending everything. What truly elevates SCP-682 to legendary status is its profound, unyielding hatred for all life. In its rare interviews, it expresses a deep-seated disgust for humanity and everything living. It's not just a mindless beast. It's intelligent, cunning, and malevolent. It communicates, it strategizes, and it learns from every attempt to destroy it. Imagine a monster that not only can be killed, but also actively wants to see the world burn and is smart enough to figure out how. That is the chilling reality of SCP-682. It represents an existential threat, a force of pure annihilation that the Foundation can only hope to delay, not defeat. The Foundation's termination log for SCP-682 reads like a who's who of the SCP-Universe. They've tried using SCP-173, the sculpture, hoping it would snap 682's neck. But 682 simply grew multiple sets of eyes to maintain a constant line of sight. They introduced it to SCP-096, the Shy Guy. A legendary battle ensued, but after the dust settled, both were still alive. With 682 heavily damaged but already regenerating, they even tried using SCP-999, the Tickle Monster, a creature made of pure joy. For a brief moment, it seemed to work. 682 actually laughed. But this exposure to positive emotion was so alien to it that it reacted by releasing a massive wave of energy, even more hateful than before. Each test only proves one thing. What doesn't kill SCP-682 truly makes it stronger. Its impact on the SCP community is immeasurable. SCP-682 is more than just a monster. It's a benchmark for power and a cornerstone of the entire lore. It's the ultimate big bad that other anomalies are measured against. Can it destroy 682? Is a question that has launched thousands of fan theories, stories, and debates. This single entry has become a creative sandbox, inspiring countless writers to imagine new and inventive ways to challenge the It embodies the core horror of the SCP-Universe. The idea that there are things out there that we understand, can't control, and certainly can't destroy. We can only contain them and hope the walls hold. SCP-682 is the ultimate symbol of that desperate hope. The character of 682 has also evolved. In some tales, it's portrayed as a fallen god, a primordial entity from a previous, broken reality, whose hatred stems from a deep-seated cosmic trauma. In others, it's the child of another powerful being, the Scarlet King. These interpretations add layers of depth to what could have been a simple monster. It's not just an angry lizard, it's a tragic, cosmic horror. This narrative richness is why SCP-682 remains one of the most popular and enduring articles on the site. A true icon of collaborative fiction. It represents the best of the SCP Wiki. A simple idea that grew into a complex, fascinating, and terrifying legend. Now, let's entertain a truly frightening thought experiment. What if SCP-682 was real? If a creature like this appeared in our world, it would be an extinction-level event. Our modern militaries, with all their advanced weaponry, would be rendered useless. A tank shell might annoy it. A nuke might slow it down for a few hours, but it would regenerate, now likely immune to radiation, and even more furious. Every attempt to stop it would just be feeding it new evolutionary advantages. It would adapt to our atmosphere, our weapons, and our biology, becoming an unstoppable plague upon the Earth. The very concept of containment would be a fantasy. Where could we possibly hold it? Any facility would be temporary at best. Its hatred for life would drive it to systematically dismantle our ecosystems and civilizations. It wouldn't be a battle for survival. It would be a slow, methodical extermination of humanity. The psychological toll would be just as devastating. How could society function knowing there is a monster out there that cannot be stopped and wants nothing more than to see us all gone? It would be the end of hope, the end of progress, and ultimately, the end of Oz. The story of SCP-682 serves as a stark reminder. We should be thankful that just a story. In conclusion, SCP-682, the Hard-to-Destroy Reptile, is the embodiment of an unsolvable problem. It is the immovable object and the unstoppable force rolled into one hateful, reptilian package. Its legacy in the SCP-Universe is built on a foundation of pure, unadulterated terror and narrative genius. It is a monster that defies not just our weapons, but our very understanding of the rules of existence. That's right. Our next documentary will be on SCP-096, the Shy Guy. We'll see you then.